kids heading back to school, but parents may not be getting a passing grade when it comes to setting their kids up for success.
Here are some A-plus tips to help your kids crush the school year's parenting writer and teacher, Kate Winn.
You're coming at this from both sides of the fence. You are a parent and you are a teacher as well. So coming at this, how do you then motivate your kids to get ready for the school year?
I think it's really important that you show and not just tell your kids how much you value their education. And you can do this in a few different ways. One is by prioritizing their attendance at school. Make sure you have them there on time every day. Ask about their day. We know anyone who has a kid in school knows that if you ask, what did you do today? They're probably going to say, nothing.
Nothing.
Right? So try to get creative. At our house, we go around the dinner table and everybody gives their high and low. So that way you're just getting the spectrum of their day. Make sure they have the supplies that they need at home for doing assignments and things like that. Encourage them to research topics that interest them just for fun. And make sure that you're always speaking positively about school and teachers in front of your kids.
Ooh, that's a big one. I think a lot of people in the audience like that one.
Yeah. So sometimes, no matter how positively you set your children up, there might be a situation where you're not happy with the way the school has handled something, and your child is in disagreement with the way it's been handled, and you want to have his or her back. So what do you do in that situation?
So first of all, just be sure that you understand that sometimes kids don't always have all the information or give you all the information. Yes. But you can still support them by saying, you know, you seem really upset about this. I think I'll call Mrs. Winn tomorrow, get some more information, look into it. They know you've got their back, but you haven't disparaged the teacher.
It's true. When you say you're going to call, sometimes the story gets a little bit clearer. They start remembering different things. Yeah. Oh, well, actually, technology is also a hot topic when it comes to children and doing what's right. You know, sometimes you see children under 2 years old. They know how to use their smartphones and tablets better than you and I. Well, maybe better than me. You're pretty good. So the big question is, should we be letting our kids use their electronics, or like, how do you recommend we?
You know what, screens are not the enemy and they're not going anywhere. So parents might as well embrace them and make them work for them. There's a couple different ways you can look at it. One is using them for positive reinforcement. If the kids love them that much, then they learn that when their homework is done, their chores are done, then they get to have fun, whether it's texting or video games or whatever. But the other thing is you should try to harness all of the great educational content that's available out there, websites, apps, things like that. The teacher can be a great reference because the teacher knows what topics are being covered. They also get to know your child and what the child might need to work on, so they can give you ideas. Make sure you know what social media sites your child is on. That's very important, not just for academic success, but
that's a big one.
That is a big one.
Because that requires parents to stay ahead of the technology too.
For sure,
That's the hard one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I will admit that Marquesa, she's almost 18 months, and she gets a little bit of screen time every day. She has educational DVDs, mostly Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, to be honest, and when she watches the social, in this picture,
programming right there.
Quality programming, for sure. So, I mean, she's maxed out. I mean, really maxed out would be 2 hours a day, split up. 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Yeah. What is your policy on how much we should or shouldn't limit screen time?
Well, my girls are 9 and 7, and they are screen lovers, which they come by, honestly. And I think balance is the key, so I don't worry so much about minutes. But if you look at a week, and not just a day, because that could be a blip, but if you look at a week, are they getting lots of physical activity, lots of outdoor play, lots of chances to socialize, lots of time that they have to entertain themselves with their toys or their books, lots of conversation and affection from caregivers? If all of that's there, I'm not too worried about the minutes. I actually worry more about content, making sure they're not exposed to playing violent games, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Okay. A big one is also being a motivator for your children as well. So what is your recommendation on how parents can help motivate their kids in school?
So you want to teach your kids to have a growth mindset. And what that means is that they believe that with work, effort, perseverance, they can improve and even get smarter. The opposite of that, which a lot of people have, is called a fixed mindset, and they think you just get what you're born with. Your brain's your talent, whatever, you just get it or you don't get it. And Carol Dweck from Stanford has done a ton of research on this, and she has shown that not only is it accurate that you can improve in all those areas, but that if you believe in it, you're going to achieve higher than if you don't. So that's why you really want to make sure your kids have that mindset.
So what does that look or sound like?
So something you can do to help them is the way you frame your praise and your encouragement. So if they do well in a test, you're not going to say, well, it's because you're brilliant, because they have no control over that. But it's because you studied so hard, you really earned that, and then that gives them more motivation to keep on working harder. And we want kids to not be afraid to take risks and face challenges and not be afraid to fail. They can learn from their mistakes.
I love what you're saying, and I think it's so important. But in the moment, you know, my son Phoenix, he started hockey last year, and he was a little nervous because his skating wasn't up to par. There he is, right there he is. so cute. And so I was trying to encourage him, and by the third week, he was like skating around the ice, no problem. But I feel like when I say that to him, no, you have to try it. You can do it. You can do it. It takes practice. They say things like, "Oh, you're going to say that because you're my mom, because you love me." I'm like, "Of course I do, but I know that you can."
Yeah, well, with my kids and with my students now, they know that all I have to do is say growth mindset, and they know that they're not allowed to frame their statements that way. But if they say something like, "I can't do this," you just try to give them another way to say it, like, "I'm still learning how to do this. I still need to work on my skating some more." The word "yet" is very key. I'm not skating as well as I want to yet, which implies they're going to get there.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really good. Let's talk about another great skill is reading. I love reading. My kids adore reading. We sometimes read together. That's them during the blackouts. They fashioned a little flashlight so they could read in the dark. But some children aren't keen on it. How do we get them involved in reading?
So one of the best gifts you can give your kid is to instill a love of reading, and make sure they have material that they're interested in, that they want to read at home. Prioritize time for it. At our house, the girls go to bed at a certain time, but the lights can stay on an extra half hour only if they're reading. Don't be a book snob. Some parents think that their child isn't really a reader unless it's chapter books, fiction, preferably classics, right? But anything goes if they're able to read it and understand it. Nonfiction, magazines, graphic novels, whatever they like is fine.
I've recently turned that corner.
That's great.
Like, whether it's like Archie's or Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or even whatever it is.
Exactly.
I like them to read whatever they're reading.
And
even my books. It can be a little bit too adult, not anything sexual or erotica, but but older books.
Okay, cute.
But then they're gonna find that too.
Yeah,
well, yeah.
But as long as you're reading.
As well. And you can be a good parent sometimes by saying, "No, you can't bother me right now. Mommy's reading."
That's really good. Okay, so last but not least, let's talk about math, because we know this is a tough one for a lot of kids. So how would you get your kids to help them succeed in that area? Because it's a life skill too.
Yeah, kids buy in more when they see the relevance of it. So from a very early age, highlight all the real life math that's going on. Financial literacy is important. Have them playing with coins, naming coins, counting coins, estimating bills at the grocery store. Even involve them in baking, cooking, all of that, and come right out and say, "I'm glad I have these math skills for this recipe today." Make it clear.
Oh, I love this. We could go on and on. Kate, this was fantastic. Thank you. We really appreciate it. We've got a recap of all of this invaluable information on our website. That's thesocial.ca, so check it out right now. We'll take a quick break.